When we talk about success, growth, leadership, or even simply becoming better at what we do, most of us immediately think about strategies, tools, and skills. We think about working harder, learning more, or finding the right opportunity. But let me tell you something that's even more powerful than all of those combined. It's the ability to control your emotions. Because the truth is, people don't act on data, they act on how they feel about data. People don't follow instructions, they follow inspiration. And inspiration is always emotional. Think about the last time you made a big decision, whether it was personal or professional. Did you sit down, make a spreadsheet of pros and cons, analyze the percentages, and then pick the option with the highest probability of success? Probably not. Maybe you justified your decision later with logic, but the choice itself came from an emotional place. It came from fear, from hope, from excitement, or from a gut feeling. That's because human beings are not logical creatures that occasionally feel emotions. We are emotional creatures that occasionally try to justify our feelings with logic. That's why controlling your emotions isn't about becoming cold, robotic, or detached. It's about acknowledging the power emotions already have in your life and deciding not to let them run wild. It's about being the master of your emotions, not their servant. Because when you master them, you can direct them towards outcomes that serve you and the people around you. I'll give you an example. Imagine a leader walking into a room where the team has just suffered a major failure. Everyone feels defeated. The atmosphere is heavy. People's heads are down. The energy is low. Now, that leader has a choice. If they allow frustration, disappointment, and anger to take control, they might lash out. They might blame, criticize, or lose their temper. What happens next? The team feels even more defeated. Trust is broken. People pull away. But if that leader takes a moment, acknowledges their own emotions, and chooses a different state, if they enter with calm, optimism, and determination, they can shift the entire atmosphere. Instead of anger, they bring encouragement. Instead of blame, they bring accountability and focus. Suddenly, the team feels a sense of hope. They rise. They start to see possibility again. The only thing that changed was the leader's emotional control. The facts didn't change. The failure still happened, but the emotional response changed the meaning of the failure, and therefore it changed the outcome. That's the power of controlling your emotions. You influence not just yourself, but everyone connected to you. Now, let's take this idea deeper. When you feel stressed, when you feel pressured, when something unexpected happens, your brain immediately goes into survival mode. It floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart beats faster. Your mind races, your breathing shortens. This is a natural response. It's how our ancestors survived danger. But here's the problem in the modern world. Most of the things we face are not life or death situations. They are emails, deadlines, arguments, traffic, setbacks, disappointments. Yet our body reacts the same way as if we were running from a lion. And when you make decisions in that state, when your emotions are controlling you, you don't think long-term. You don't think clearly. You react. And most of the time, those reactions lead to regrets. We snap at someone we love. We send an email we wish we could take back. We make a decision to quit when we should have stayed, or we stay when we should have left. Controlling your emotions doesn't mean shutting them off. It means recognizing what's happening inside you and creating space between the stimulus and your response. It's the ability to feel the frustration, feel the fear, feel the anger, but not let those emotions dictate the action. Because when you pause, even for a moment, you shift from reaction to response. And in that space, you regain control of the outcome. I once met someone who worked in emergency medicine. They told me something fascinating. When chaos erupts, when lives are on the line, when every second matters, the person who panics first is rarely the least skilled. It's often the most knowledgeable person who loses themselves to emotion. Why? Because they're overwhelmed by the weight of responsibility. But the ones who excel in those environments, the ones who save lives, are not the ones who know the most facts. They're the ones who stay calm, control their emotions, and focus on what matters most in that moment. Their calmness gives clarity to others. Their emotional control literally saves lives. That applies to us too, even if we're not saving lives in an emergency room. In business, in relationships, in personal growth, our ability to control emotions under pressure determines the trajectory of our lives. Think about it. How many opportunities are lost because someone let fear stop them? How many relationships are broken because anger wasn't controlled? How many dreams are abandoned because frustration convinced someone to quit too early? Here's the part that often surprises people. Controlling your emotions doesn't happen in the moment of crisis. It's trained long before. It's a daily practice. Just like athletes don't train during the game, emotional mastery is built in the small, quiet moments of everyday life. It's built when you choose patience instead of snapping at the barista for being slow. It's built when you pause before responding to criticism online. It's built when you take a breath before reacting to a disappointing outcome. Every time you do this, you're building the muscle of emotional control. So when the big moments come, you don't fall apart. You rise. Another thing we need to understand is that emotions are contagious. If you walk into a room full of anxious people, you'll start to feel anxious too. If you surround yourself with people who are constantly angry or bitter, you'll start to carry that same energy. But the opposite is also true. One person with calm confidence can shift the atmosphere of an entire room. One person with optimism can spark hope in others. And the one who controls their emotions becomes that person. They become a thermostat, not a thermometer. They don't just reflect the temperature of the environment, they set it. So when I say controlling your emotions controls your results, it's not just about personal success, it's about the ripple effect. Your ability to remain calm, optimistic, and focused doesn't just help you make better decisions, it inspires the people around you to do the same. It creates trust, and trust is the foundation of all meaningful relationships, whether in business, in leadership, or in life. The truth is, we cannot stop emotions from arising. Fear will come, anger will come, frustration will come. What matters is whether we let them drive the car or we keep them in the passenger seat. You can acknowledge them without handing them the steering wheel. Because if fear is driving, you will always play small. If anger is driving, you will always burn bridges. If frustration is driving, you will always quit too soon. But if you are driving, if you are in control, those emotions can serve you. Fear can become awareness. Anger can become passion for justice. Frustration can become fuel for innovation. Control your emotions and you control your story. You decide whether you are reactive or intentional, whether you are led by chaos or guided by clarity. And that decision, the decision to master your inner world, will determine every result you produce in the outer world. So the next time you're about to react, pause. The next time you feel overwhelmed, breathe. The next time fear tells you not to try, smile and take a step forward anyway. Because your emotions may try to control you, but they only succeed if you let them. And when you learn to control your emotions, you'll find something remarkable. The results you've been chasing begin to follow. There's a phrase I've always believed in. The difference between average and exceptional is found in the space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. That space, though often small, is where your entire future is shaped. Most of us don't think about that gap because we live in reaction. Something happens and we immediately fire back. Someone cuts us off in traffic and we honk or yell. A colleague criticizes our work and we defend ourselves with sharp words. A setback appears and we immediately label it as failure. It's automatic, it's instinctive, and most of the time it's destructive. What we don't realize is that greatness lives in that pause. Control lives in that pause. Leadership lives in that pause. The ability to stop, breathe, and choose how to respond instead of reacting impulsively is what separates those who are victims of circumstance from those who rise above it. When you look back on your life, some of your biggest regrets probably came from moments where you didn't pause. You spoke when silence would have been wiser. You acted when patience would have been better. You quit when persistence would have paid off. And when we reflect, we often say, I wish I had taken a moment. I wish I had thought it through. That's the gap I'm talking about, the space between reaction and response. Imagine this scenario. Two people experience the exact same setback. A project fails. One person reacts instantly, overwhelmed with frustration, blaming everyone around them, declaring the situation hopeless. The other person takes a breath, allows the frustration to pass through, and then calmly asks, what can we learn from this? How do we move forward? Same event, completely different outcomes. One digs a hole deeper, the other builds a ladder upward. The difference wasn't in the circumstances, it was in the choice made in that small but powerful gap. I remember hearing about a soldier who had returned from deployment overseas. He talked about how in combat, emotions can't be allowed to run wild. Fear, anger, panic, they come like a flood. But he explained something profound. The first impulse will get you killed. The second thought saves your life. What he meant was that the instinctive reaction, the one fueled purely by adrenaline and fear, is rarely the right move. It's the pause, the quick recalibration, the conscious choice that leads to survival. Now, most of us are not in combat zones, but in many ways our lives demand the same skill. Because we face moments every day where the first impulse might destroy trust, break a relationship, or derail an opportunity. The first impulse can damage, but the thoughtful response can create. This is not about suppressing how you feel. It's not about pretending you aren't hurt when someone offends you, or pretending you aren't afraid when challenges appear. It's about honoring the feeling without becoming its prisoner. It's about saying, I feel this, but I don't have to be this. That distinction is everything. Because the moment you let your emotions define you, you give up control. You become a puppet pulled by the strings of circumstance. But when you create that pause, when you take ownership of how you will respond, you become the one holding the strings. Think of a time when someone truly inspired you. Maybe it was a teacher, a mentor, a parent, or even a stranger. I guarantee you that part of what inspired you was not just their words, but their composure. They didn't fly off the handle when things went wrong. They didn't make decisions out of panic. They modeled restraint, patience, and calm strength. And in doing so, they gave you a sense of stability. That's the gift of choosing a response over a reaction. It doesn't just affect you, it gives strength to those around you. The world often tells us that strength is about aggression, dominance, or immediate action. But true strength is restraint. True strength is patience. It's the quiet confidence to say, I don't have to let this moment control me. I will control how I show up in this moment. That's not weakness, that's mastery. I once knew an entrepreneur who lost nearly everything in a sudden financial downturn. His business collapsed almost overnight. Many of his peers reacted with anger, denial, or desperation. Some lashed out, others gave up. But he did something remarkable. He went for a walk. He allowed himself to feel the devastation, but he didn't immediately act. He waited until the storm inside him quieted down. And then he asked himself one simple question. What's still in my control? That question became the seed of his comeback. Within a few years, he had rebuilt stronger and wiser. When I asked him how he managed to respond with such composure, he smiled and said, I just didn't react. And when you don't react, the right response eventually becomes clear. Think about that. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is nothing at all, at least not right away. Sometimes the best move is to wait, to breathe, to let your emotions settle before deciding what to do. Because when the water is turbulent, you can't see clearly to the bottom. But when you let the water still, clarity appears. The pause creates that clarity. Now, let's be honest, this isn't easy. Our world celebrates speed. We're told to respond to messages instantly, to solve problems quickly, to keep moving at all costs. But reacting fast is not the same as acting wisely. If you respond to everything at the speed of emotion, you will live in chaos. But if you cultivate the discipline of pause, of patience, you create a life of intentionality. You stop being pulled by circumstances, and instead, you start directing them. And here's the irony when you practice this kind of restraint. People start to trust you more. Why? Because they know you won't lose control when things get tough. They know you won't overreact to small issues. They know you won't make reckless decisions under pressure. That kind of trust is priceless. It's what makes people want to follow you, work with you, and believe in you. One of the most powerful examples of this can be seen in negotiations. The person who speaks first, driven by impatience or fear, often loses. But the one who can sit in silence, who can control their emotions, who can wait for the right moment to speak, they're the ones who gain respect and often come out with the better outcome. That's not manipulation, it's discipline. It's the recognition that reaction is weakness, but response is strength. The same principle applies in our personal lives. How many arguments in families, marriages, and friendships escalate because someone reacts instantly in anger? Words are spoken that can't be unsaid. Bridges are burned that take years to rebuild. But imagine if in those moments someone paused, took a breath, and responded differently. Instead of anger, they chose curiosity. Why did you say that? What do you mean by that? Instead of defensiveness, they chose vulnerability. That hurt me. Can we talk about it? That's how conflicts turn into deeper connections. That's how relationships grow instead of crumble. The pause is not weakness, it is wisdom. And it's available to every one of us. You don't need to be a CEO, a soldier, or a guru to practice it. You just need awareness. You need to notice that gap between reaction and response. And you need to decide that your future is worth the discipline of restraint. Over time, the pause becomes habit. It becomes your natural way of living. And when that happens, life changes. You stop being at the mercy of your impulses, and you start shaping your life with intention. You stop saying things you regret. You stop making decisions you wish you could undo. You start building trust, creating stability, and producing results that last. The events of your life will always be unpredictable. People will disappoint you, challenges will come, failures will happen. You can't control that, but you can control the space between what happens and what you do next. And that space, that pause, is where your results are born. So the next time life throws something at you, don't rush to react. Don't let anger, fear, or frustration take the wheel. Instead, pause, breathe, create space, and then choose a response that reflects the person you want to be, not just the emotion you happen to feel. Because in that space, you hold your future. In that space, you decide your results. Every one of us carries energy into the spaces we walk into. It doesn't matter whether we're aware of it or not. It's always there. The way we feel, the way we speak, the way we move, it all creates an atmosphere around us. And here's the thing, people don't just notice it, they absorb it. Energy is contagious. It spreads faster than words, faster than actions, faster than logic. Which means if you want to influence people, if you want to lead them, if you want to achieve results that matter, you don't start with strategies or instructions, you start with your emotional state. Think of it this way: when you enter a room, you either lift it or you lower it. You're never neutral. If you walk in with stress, anxiety, or frustration, others will feel it instantly. Even if you don't say a word, they'll pick it up from your tone, your posture, your face. But if you walk in with calm, focus, and optimism, people feel safer, they trust more, they rise with you. That's what it means to multiply your energy. You take control of your emotions so that they don't just serve you, but they serve everyone around you. I once spoke with a teacher who told me about her very first year in the classroom. She said she struggled at first because whenever the students misbehaved, she reacted out of frustration. She raised her voice, she got angry, and the class spiraled even more out of control. But one day, a senior teacher pulled her aside and said, "You set the tone. If you bring calm, they will settle. If you bring panic, they will erupt." She decided to try something different. The next time chaos broke out, instead of yelling, she stayed calm. She lowered her voice instead of raising it. Within moments, the students began to mirror her tone. The energy shifted. That was the day she realized her emotions were not private, they were multiplied through her students. And that's when she truly became a leader in her classroom. Leadership is not about having authority. It's about creating energy that others want to follow. People rarely remember the exact words we say, but they always remember how we made them feel. And feelings are shaped by the emotions we bring into the room. If we bring cynicism, people become cynical. If we bring hope, people find hope. If we bring panic, people panic. If we bring composure, people calm down. That's why emotional control is so powerful, because when you master it, you don't just transform your own life, you transform the lives of everyone connected to you. And this is true in every part of life. In families, children mirror their parents' emotions. If parents are constantly stressed, the children grow up carrying that same energy. But when parents model patience and resilience, children learn strength. In teams, employees mirror their leader. A leader who lashes out creates a culture of fear. But a leader who listens and responds with composure creates a culture of trust. In friendships, one person's negativity can drag everyone down. But one person's positivity can light everyone up. You can't separate your emotions from your influence. They are one and the same. Here's the mistake many people make. They think controlling emotions means suppressing them. They think it means putting on a fake smile, pretending everything is fine and hiding how they feel. But suppression is not control, it's denial. And denial eventually cracks. Real control doesn't mean you don't feel anger, sadness, or fear. It means you choose how to express those emotions in ways that serve others. It means you channel them. For example, anger can become a driving force for justice when it's expressed with purpose instead of rage. Sadness can become a doorway to connection when it's shared with vulnerability instead of self-pity. Fear can become courage when it's acknowledged but not allowed to dominate. One of the most inspiring leaders I ever heard about was a man who ran a company during a financial crisis. Everyone in the company knew layoffs were possible. The tension was unbearable. People whispered in hallways, productivity dropped, and fear spread like wildfire. The leader could have responded with cold numbers, stiff announcements, and demands for harder work. Instead, he called everyone together, stood in front of them, and spoke with calm honesty. He didn't deny the fear, he acknowledged it. He said, yes, this is hard. Yes, we're under pressure. But here's what I believe: if we stand together, if we work smarter, if we take care of one another, We will come through this stronger. His confidence wasn't fake, it was grounded, calm, and real, and it spread. The company not only survived, but within 2 years it grew beyond where it had been before. Why? Because the leader understood his emotions weren't his alone, they were multiplied across the entire organization. Think about what that means for your own life. Every time you choose how to manage your emotions, you're not just affecting yourself, you're setting the tone for everyone around you. If you wake up in the morning and decide to dwell on everything that's wrong, you're not the only one who pays the price. The people you live with, work with, and interact with will feel it too. But if you decide to start your day with gratitude, with intention, with a calm focus, you give others permission to rise as well. That's the gift of emotional mastery. It multiplies. And here's something powerful: people are not inspired by perfection, they're inspired by presence. You don't have to be flawless to multiply energy, you just have to be authentic and intentional. Think of the times you've been around someone who radiated calm confidence even in the middle of chaos. They didn't pretend the chaos wasn't there. They didn't hide their emotions. They simply managed them in a way that gave you strength. That's what emotional leadership looks like. Now, of course, this requires practice, because the truth is, when we're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed, our emotions naturally lean toward negativity. It's easy to snap. It's easy to complain. It's easy to spread frustration. That's why emotional control is a discipline. It's something we choose daily. And the choice isn't just for us. It's for everyone who depends on us, everyone who looks to us, and everyone who's affected by the energy we carry. There's a story I love about a musician who was once asked why his orchestra sounded so different when he conducted, even though they were the same players. He smiled and said, because the conductor sets the tone. He wasn't just talking about tempo or rhythm, he was talking about energy. When he stood on the podium, his presence, his emotion, his intention flowed through every member of that orchestra. The musicians mirrored him, and together they created harmony. That's what happens in life too. The people around us mirror our emotional state. If we want harmony, it starts with us. So if you want to multiply the best kind of energy, ask yourself, what are you bringing into the room? Are you bringing stress, anger, or fear? Or are you bringing calm, hope, and determination? Because the truth is, you always bring something, and people will always feel it. Your results, your influence, your impact, they don't begin with what you say or what you do. They begin with the energy you carry. Control that energy, and you don't just control your own results. You amplify the results of everyone you touch. That's the kind of leadership the world needs. That's the kind of leadership each of us is capable of. So the next time you step into a meeting, into your home, into a conversation, remember this: you are not just one person. You are a multiplier, and the emotions you carry will echo far beyond yourself. Control them, channel them, and direct them with purpose. Because when you do, you don't just change your own life, you change the atmosphere of every room you enter and the lives of every person who enters you. Life will test you. That's not a possibility, that's a guarantee. No matter how smart you are, no matter how well you plan, no matter how prepared you think you might be, the world has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. And when those moments come, when the business fails, when the relationship ends, when the opportunity slips away, the difference between those who collapse and those who rise is not intelligence. It's not resources, it's not even talent. It's resilience, and resilience at its core is the ability to control your emotions when the storm hits. Think about it. Every setback begins as an emotional event. When something goes wrong, your first experience is not logical, it's emotional. You feel disappointment, frustration, anger, sadness, maybe even shame. Those emotions rush in like a flood. And if you let them take control, you start making decisions that only make things worse. You quit too soon. You lash out at the wrong person. You convince yourself the story is over when, in reality, the story has just begun. Resilience doesn't mean you don't feel those emotions. It means you feel them deeply, but you don't let them own you. You allow yourself to process them, but then you choose to act with clarity, not chaos. I once heard about a marathon runner who had trained for months for a big race. On the day of the event, only halfway through, he felt a sharp pain in his leg. It wasn't enough to stop him, but it was enough to slow him down. He told me later, at that moment, I had two choices. I could listen to the voice in my head screaming at me to quit, or I could listen to the quieter voice saying, keep going. One more step, one more mile. He finished the race not with the time he had hoped for, but with a lesson that would serve him for life. He said, "I realized resilience is not about winning easily. It's about not giving in to the emotions that tell you to stop. The world is not broken by challenges, it is broken by our inability to handle them. It's not the obstacle itself that destroys us, but the way we react to it emotionally. When we panic, when we despair, when we surrender to hopelessness, we turn setbacks into permanent defeat. But when we control our emotions, we can reframe the setback. Instead of asking, why me? We start asking, what now? Instead of seeing a dead end, we begin to see a detour. That shift in emotional control transforms defeat into resilience. Let's take an example from business history. In the early days of his company, a young entrepreneur faced failure after failure. Products flopped, investors pulled out, critics laughed. Most people in his position would have given up, overwhelmed by embarrassment and frustration. But he didn't. He chose to manage his emotions, to stay calm in the storm, and to look at every failure as data instead of disaster. Each setback was a lesson, not a death sentence. Today, that company is one of the most recognized in the world. The resilience that made it possible didn't come from avoiding failure. It came from controlling the emotional chaos that failure created. And this is true not just for entrepreneurs or athletes, but for all of us. Every one of us faces moments that test our strength. Maybe it's a personal loss, maybe it's rejection. Maybe it's a dream that didn't turn out the way we hoped. The temptation in those moments is to let emotions convince us the story is over. But resilience reminds us the story isn't finished, it's only being rewritten. Emotional control is the pen in your hand that allows you to write the next chapter instead of letting circumstances write it for you. I met someone once who had gone through a devastating personal loss. I asked them how they managed to keep moving forward, and their answer was simple. I gave myself permission to grieve, but I didn't give myself permission to stop living. That's emotional control. It doesn't mean ignoring your pain. It means honoring it, but not letting it define you. It means acknowledging, yes, this hurts. Yes, this is hard. But this is not the end. That's resilience in its purest form. The beautiful thing about resilience is that it grows stronger the more you use it. Just like a muscle, it's built through resistance. Every time you face a challenge and choose to manage your emotions instead of letting them manage you, you're building resilience. The next time a storm comes, you'll find yourself stronger, calmer, more grounded. You'll realize that what used to break you no longer has the same power over you. This is why the people who inspire us most are not the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who faced unimaginable challenges and didn't let those challenges destroy them. They're the ones who turned pain into wisdom, who turned failure into growth, who turned loss into perspective. What inspires us about them isn't that they avoided suffering. It's that they controlled their emotions in the midst of suffering. And in doing so, they showed us what resilience looks like. There's a saying that smooth seas never made skilled sailors. It's in the storm where the sailor learns to steer. The same is true for us. You don't learn resilience when everything is going your way. You learn it when nothing is going your way, and you still find a way to keep going. And the way you do that is by controlling the emotions that tell you to give up. Now, resilience doesn't mean you never fall. It doesn't mean you never stumble. It doesn't mean you never feel broken. It simply means you refuse to stay down. It means that every time you fall, you control the emotions that whisper, stay down, and you choose the ones that say, rise again. That choice, repeated over and over, is what builds a resilient life. And here's the most important part. Resilience is not just about surviving for yourself. It's about giving hope to others. When you remain calm in crisis, when you keep moving forward despite setbacks, you give people around you permission to do the same. You become an anchor for them. Your emotional control becomes a source of stability for others who may not yet have found their own. And in that way, resilience multiplies. It becomes not just your strength, but the strength of everyone connected to you. So when I say resilience is emotional control in action, I mean this, it's not about denying the storm. It's about steering through it. It's not about avoiding failure. It's about responding to failure with calm and clarity. It's not about being unbreakable. It's about refusing to let being broken be the end of your story. The storms will come. The challenges will appear. The setbacks will test you. But remember this, you are not defined by what happens to you. You are defined by how you respond. Control your emotions and you'll find resilience. Find resilience and you'll find the strength to keep moving forward no matter what life throws at you. And in the end, it's not the storm that matters. It's the sailor you become by learning to steer through it. Every result you see in your life is a reflection of what's happening in your mind. Not sometimes, not occasionally, but always. The quality of your results mirrors the quality of your state of mind. When your mind is scattered, your results are scattered. When your mind is disciplined, your results are disciplined. When your mind is fueled by optimism, focus, and clarity, your results carry the same energy. That's why controlling your emotions matters so much, because your emotions shape your state of mind, and your state of mind shapes your outcomes. Think about the days when you wake up tired, frustrated, or distracted. Even simple tasks feel heavy. You misplace your keys, you forget small details, you take longer to finish things that normally take minutes. The results of the day mirror the chaos inside. Now think about the days when you wake up with calm energy, when your emotions are balanced and your mind is clear. Suddenly, you make better decisions, conversations flow more easily, and opportunities seem to appear. The outside world didn't change. Your state of mind did, and that shift created different results. I once had a conversation with an athlete who had competed at the highest level. I asked him what separated the great from the good. His answer surprised me. He didn't say talent. He didn't say training. He didn't even say luck. He said, it's state of mind. When the pressure is highest, the ones who can stay calm and clear, they win. Everyone else lets their emotions cloud their focus. He told me that in moments of stress, the average athlete gets consumed by fear of losing, while the great athlete channels the same energy into focus on execution. The same physical skills, the same training, but a completely different outcome, all because of state of mind. This principle applies everywhere, not just on the field. A leader who allows stress to dominate their mind creates panic in their organization. A leader who manages their emotions and stays grounded creates trust and direction. A student who lets fear of failure control them underperforms, even when they know the material. But a student who controls their fear and keeps a calm mindset performs at their true potential. The results always follow the state of mind. Let me give you a story. There was a man who lost his job after decades of working at the same company. At first, his emotions took over. Fear, anger, frustration. He spent weeks spiraling, convinced that everything was over. His state of mind created paralysis. But one morning, he realized that his results would only change if his mindset did. He decided to reframe his situation. Instead of saying, I've lost everything, he said, I've been given a chance to reinvent myself. That shift didn't magically solve his problems, but it gave him the energy to act. Within a year, he had started a business doing something he loved, something he never would have attempted if he hadn't been forced out of his comfort zone. His results followed his state of mind. The facts of his life hadn't changed. What changed was the lens through which he saw them. That's the hidden truth. Reality is less about what happens to us and more about how we interpret what happens. Two people can face the same challenge. One sees it as the end, the other sees it as the beginning. The difference isn't the situation, it's the mindset. And the results they achieve reflect that difference. When your emotions control you, your mind is unstable. Fear narrows your vision. Anger blinds your judgment. Frustration convinces you to quit before you should. But when you control your emotions, you create stability inside, and from that stability comes clarity. And from that clarity comes consistent action, and from consistent action come results. That's the chain. It always begins with your state of mind. I remember talking to a small group of entrepreneurs who had faced rejection after rejection from investors. Some were bitter. They said, the system is rigged. And because they believed that, they stopped trying. Others said, every no is getting us closer to the right ayahs. They kept refining their pitch, kept learning, kept showing up. Guess which group succeeded? Same circumstances, same rejections, but different results because of different mindsets. It's easy to believe that results come from strategy, resources, or timing. And yes, those matter, but none of them matter if your mind is not in the right state. Strategy doesn't work if you quit too soon. Resources don't matter if you misuse them. Timing doesn't matter if fear keeps you from acting when the moment arrives. But when your state of mind is steady, when your emotions are managed, you maximize every resource, you learn from every failure, and you seize every opportunity. Here's something else: your results don't just reflect your mindset in the short term. they reflect it over the long term. Because emotions create habits and habits create destiny. A person who lives in a state of constant frustration develops habits of quitting, of complaining, of blaming. Over time, those habits define their life. A person who lives in a state of calm determination develops habits of persistence, of problem solving, of optimism. Over time, those habits define their success. One state of mind leads to spirals downward, the other leads to spirals upward. The difference is emotional control, and don't misunderstand me. It doesn't mean you have to be happy and positive all the time. That's not real. Life will bring sadness, anger, fear. Emotional control doesn't erase those feelings. It means you don't build your house on them. You don't let them become the foundation of your mindset. You acknowledge them, you process them, and then you choose a state of mind that leads you where you want to go. The greatest leaders in history, the ones who achieved extraordinary results, all had this in common. They controlled their emotions in the midst of crisis. They didn't deny fear, but they didn't let fear define them. They didn't deny uncertainty, but they didn't let uncertainty paralyze them. They chose calm, focus, and resilience. And because of that, they inspired millions. Their results were not accidents. They were reflections of their state of mind. Think about your own life right now. What results are you getting? If they're not the results you want, ask yourself honestly, what state of mind am I living in? Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it doubt? Because if it is, no strategy will save you until you shift your mindset. But if you choose calmness, clarity, and determination, even the smallest steps forward will compound into extraordinary results. This is why I say results follow state of mind. Because it's not just about doing more, working harder, or pushing faster. It's about aligning your emotions with your vision. When your inner world is steady, your outer world begins to reflect that steadiness. When your inner world is chaotic, your outer world mirrors that chaos. The results are simply the evidence of happening inside. So here's the choice every one of us faces daily. Do we let emotions dictate our results? Or do we dictate our emotions so we can create the results we want? The choice isn't easy. It requires practice. It requires awareness. It requires daily discipline. But it's worth it because your life is too important to be run by impulses. Your dreams are too valuable to be handed over to fear. Your relationships are too meaningful to be destroyed by anger. Your potential is too great to be limited by doubt. Control your emotions, and you control your state of mind. Control your state of mind, and you control your results. It really is that simple and that powerful. The question is, will you choose to live from reaction, or will you choose to live from intention? Because the results you achieve tomorrow are being shaped by the mindset you choose today.